Well, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we have a awesome and fantastic guest. Fellow Army veteran and singer-songwriter Casey Cameron is with us. Joining today, of course, is Ron Nieves, Army veteran and musician, as he is a host of the GI Jam session for the Lima Charlie Show. And as we do sometimes, Casey, just for fun, especially since we're kind of doing this virtual today, we'll start with a radio check. How do you read me over?
Yeah, Lima Charlie, man.
Lima
Lima
Charlie,
All
yeah,
Charlie.
right.
yeah,
Perfect.
Ron, how do you read us over? Yeah.
Lima, Charlie.
Lima Charlie. Cool.
Cheers.
Well, we are so impressed with you, and you're kind of an old soul, but you're still a very young man. We're very impressed with you, and now that Ron and I are kind of the old guys, sorry, Ron, called you out. It's fun. It's fun to watch folks like you coming up and coming into your own. I mean, you're breaking out on the music scene. You got a new album. We're going to talk about that in detail. We're going to play a couple songs, and but before we do that, we got to kind of go back in time a little bit. Talk to us about your military career, why you decided to join, why you chose the branch. The MOS impressed me. I was very fascinated by that. Walk us through the origin story of your military service, if you don't mind.
Started in 2015, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, yeah, my Army story's a little odd actually compared to most, and the reason is, yeah, I appreciate you guys saying that I'm a young man. I don't feel like it because it seems like I do everything in life a little bit late. But so I didn't join the Army until I was 31 years old, and it was just one of those things that always just kind of got away from me, and always had some reason for not making it happen. So to back all the way up, I graduated from high school in 2002, literally fall of senior year, watched 9/11 go down while I was sitting in high school in Detroit. And so I had thought about it then. Parents kind of talked me out of it at the time because they're like, well, if you do that, you're clearly not going to be in college very much. You're probably going to be on a deployment cycle. And I saw some friends go through that. So fast forward, I graduated from Michigan State University in 2007, and I was like, well, by now things must be calmed out. Nah, to the contrary, right? That was the surge that was happening then, and it wasn't for lack of wanting to experience that. It was just I had a job lined up, and it was a very difficult decision at the time then too. So fast forward even further, do a couple jobs as you do when you get out of college, and then I ended up. At the time, I was working for, and actually still do, working for Polaris, and they're a defense contractor, super pro military, awesome, awesome company. And because of that, they're pretty encouraging with military service and everything. So I figured I'd approach my boss about it and say, hey, there's this thing I've always wanted to do. He was like, yeah, if it's truly, kind of a thing that you've always wanted to accomplish, go for it. We'll deal with you being on, excuse me, on military leave for a little while. So, yeah, 31 years old, I packed my stuff and we went over to Fort Benning, and then Officer Candidacy School after that. So here we are 9 years later. But so I guess we're kind of still on the front half of a military career. So
That's a fast decade for sure, though, the way
yeah.
it transitioned for you. That's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. And so when you were in, you mentioned Fort Benning. What are some of the other spots you had to we'll say what are some of the other sandals resorts you had to visit?
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So, basic training, Fort Benning, came back to the Nebraska National Guard, went the traditional route for OCS for about a little over a year. Then when I got done with that, the Intelligence Center of Excellence for the Army, as you guys might know, is in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And so that was a longer school. I think it's close to 6 months. Spent down far southern Arizona a few years, and I'm actually getting ready to probably go back there here pretty soon for my captain's career course coming up here pretty soon. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's incredible that you're managing, and I don't think a lot of folks have noticed that. Because you're busy. I mean, I follow you online. I follow your shows, your tour dates. You're pretty busy right now. I know just recently you were at a couple festivals. You're pretty much every weekend at least you're out there, and yet you're still serving our country, which I don't know how many folks are in that
Yeah,
world.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a unique situation. You know what though? Honestly, like sometimes it's good, man. We put a lot of miles. I've got a Sprinter van full of gear that's about a year old right now, and it's coming up on just under 60,000 miles. And for that reason, it's nice to have that one weekend every month you can count on where you're doing something different and you change pace, change the scenery. I
Yeah.
shave my face once a month. I do a lot of things,
Oh
right?
yeah, you
And so I
gotta be in
actually,
regs.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
you know, so everything kind of gets reset like one weekend a month, and I think it's good for me. Keeps that balance. Otherwise, you know, the road gets long, as they say, for sure. So
Yeah, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I was racking my brain just a couple nights ago preparing for this talk today, and I was trying to think of who else is out there right now that's performing, especially in your genre of music, that's in the military, and I could only think of one other name. You tell me if I'm wrong, and I would love to know the list that you have, but I could only think of someone that we all know, which is Craig Morgan. Craig
yeah,
Craig Morgan
okay.
went back into the reserves recently.
yeah,
It was a recent
yeah,
decision.
Okay.
And I'm thinking,
yep,
yeah, that's about right. Casey's that caliber. No pun intended. That's a flattering comment when I say that. But I mean, that's the level of where you're at. And I'm like, holy cow! Both of these artists are out there singing, songwriting, doing their thing, and they still serve their
yeah,
country. They still anchor themselves back to service.
Well, it's
yeah.
amazing.
Craig. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
Oh, and I was just going to thank you for your service on both fronts as a singer-songwriter and as a service member.
Absolutely, man, and same to you guys. That was a really cool story. I loved seeing that. Craig Morgan recently re-enlisted, I think as a staff sergeant, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Um, but yeah, no, that was cool, especially just because of the fact that like it is such a major need right now for recruiting and retention, right? And so anytime we can get guys leaning in and showing people that it's still cool to be in the Army.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. And Craig's kind of a friend. He's been around a long time. He's a really good friend of one of our buddies from Nebraska. That owns a trucking company there, or trucking dealership there. So he comes through every once in a while, and we get to see him. And yeah, he's an awesome friend and a good American for sure. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. So back to your origin story, the service. You're still in, so it's not really fair to ask you any questions now while you're still in. That we normally say, you know, we'll sometimes spill some tea, but you're still in, so I won't do that to you, especially with your MLS. But I will ask you this kind of general question, which you can have an easy out with. Leadership's a big thing, obviously, in the military. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of lessons that I know personally, and I know Ron and I have talked about this many times. Ron and I have known each other now for whew, almost 30 years, Ron, I think.
Almost 30, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
know.
we've had all the conversations you can imagine in many states, many camps, many campfires, and many countries. But one of the things that I'm always curious about is the lessons you learned that you could not have possibly learned anywhere else. So, like, is there one prevailing lesson you think you have already picked up from the military that is kind of unique? Like there's no way that would have, it's just something that's gotten your mind, your compass clean, if you will, because you
Yeah.
understood something at a still fairly young age.
Sure. I don't know. I guess the thing I kind of always go back to is just, not an easy out answer, but just just discipline. You know what I mean? Like getting up in the morning and having something to do, especially as a musician, right? Like, there's a lot of days where, you know, nights go long and then you don't have anything to do the next day till 5 o'clock sound check or something like that, right? So, you can spend those days doing a lot of things, and I think the military kind of keeps me trying to make those times productive, right? Process driven stuff, and just trying to do every day, the best that we can do it. I'll get up early in the morning, do what you got to do, be ready to go, be a professional. We always talk about professionalism in the military. And I don't get me wrong, I got a lot of really good friends in the music business that are consummate professionals, but it's not everybody either, right? And I think there's a there's a balance there where music is a lot of fun and it can definitely be a party, but if you only embrace that piece of it, it's hard to create longevity as well, right? So Yeah, I'd say discipline and professionalism is
Yeah.
been something I lean on. So
And I know you are living that because we already talked offline that you even did PT this morning before this talk. So
how can you not, man? I'm in Deadwood, South Dakota, literally in this cool little hotel on the side of a mountain. Like if there's any place where you want to go out and get a little fresh air, it's here. So
yeah, so you probably had a late night showing last night, early rise, PT, and then you're still doing this. So that's discipline. That's fantastic. So, well, walk us through, and I know Ron's got a list of questions, so I'll let him, get through those with you. But he's, as far as singing, songwriting, I mean, there's so much there. So, Ron, I know you had a couple of things you definitely wanted to bring to his attention.
Yeah, you already mentioned you attended Michigan State University, and that's where you found music.
yeah, yep.
Eh,
That's when I started. Yeah, actually playing drums first, which kind of
okay,
became the
yeah.
basis for a lot of this stuff. So yeah.
And when did you play guitar as well? When do you play anything else?
Maybe a little bit of piano,
A
but
little bit
not
of piano.
much. Yeah, and I'm a borderline campfire guitarist at best. But what it does is it creates the conduit to be able to write songs and play shows, and play my songs for people. And I work on it every day. But yeah, I drummed for a long time for other bands and all over the place, Michigan, and then out to California and back. But that also gave me like the structure of music, right? So when you're drumming,
Right.
you're really literally like the conductor of the orchestra, right? And so
Yep.
it really kind of set the groundwork for being able to structure a song and understand at least a basic outline for songwriting. So I'm grateful that I drummed for a long time and just made that transition, because the one thing you can't do is have your own thing going when you're a drummer, right? It's hard to go play a gig from behind a drum kit. I don't think anybody would want to listen to that. So
So that kind of leads into the next thing I was curious about and wanted you to kind of just talk about your feelings on it as far as your songwriting process, how the songs typically come to you, without giving out too much of, I guess, how the sausage is made. But is it
yeah.
does it usually end up you and a guitar? Do chords come to you first, or is it a melody, a vocal melody that you end up comping against, or maybe sometimes either or?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. There's kind of, I see it as kind of like you can go two different directions. There's a lot of great songwriters that will kind of come up with like a head lick or something on the drums, or even a bass line, or sorry, on the guitar, or even a bass line. And then they're like, okay, I need to use this because this is a really cool sound. Somebody find me some words that fit here. I kind of go the other way. If you listen to my songs, they're really lyric based. They're
Right.
storytelling songs. They usually have some sort of fun wordplay that makes them somewhat catchy. And so that's how mine start. Like, I got, I don't know, hundreds of little weird notes in my notepad on my iPhone. And the reason for that is like typically I'll hear someone else say something and just be, like one sentence or even a couple words linked together and say, that's a song right there. And I'll write it down. And then when it's time to go into a write, yeah, I come back to that and just start flipping through notes and say, oh yeah, no, this one's cool. The thing I like doing about starting with a lyric base, right, is because now you know the direction that you're trying to bring that song. Um, you know, the current single is a song called Church, that's coming out on this album that we've got next week. And that was kind of more like an idea. That was where being a musician is really hard. You're being out on the road all the time. There's not a lot of Sunday mornings where you wake up in your hometown and you can go down to church, right? And have that solid base. And so, but what I realized is playing music is kind of a similar experience, and especially
Right
with
on.
so many churches being music-based worship and things like that. And so we do that every night. And so I was like, you know, the church of country music, it might be the same thing. And it was literally that sentence said exactly that way. And then
Yeah.
I was like, there's a song, right?
Yeah, I love that. And folks, we're gonna play that song. It's actually on deck. We're gonna be playing that today during the broadcast. But I have to say, this is why you have to follow these fantastic performers. I got a little bell or a little reminder because I follow you on everything. I follow you on Spotify, YouTube. Feel free to tell our listening audience what supports you the best because obviously that's what we want to do. But it
Yeah,
was
thank you.
fantastic that that came up the second you posted it. I must have listened to that 3 times in a row.
Yeah, thank you very much. No,
No,
we were also
it's a great. I mean, just love all your stuff. But
yeah, we were very blessed with that song and some others on the record too that be down in a little studio in Wimberley, Texas, with some incredible musicians. And that song in particular, I'm just so grateful. You know, you hear all the guitar work on there. The fiddle is my band leader that plays with me every day, in Joshua Rex. But then we were able to bring in on slide guitar and pedal steel guitar Jeff Queen from a band called Reckless Kelly, and he is a monster. And then Dave Percival produced that record. He's an incredible piano player, guitar player. Casey Johns on bass, Josh Center on drums, and then our good buddy Jules Meridian put some harmonies on it. And that song is only what it is because we got all those people in a room, if that makes sense. Yeah, that was a fun one for sure.
No, that was definitely something that stood out for me in a lot of the songs was the instrumentation and the arrangements and how they lend to the song or the sentiment of the song and the lyrics. They really back and support it. I was wondering about that is how, you know, the individual contribution of band members to that final product goes, if you could speak on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other blessing of technology is in addition to those handwritten notes on the notepad in the iPhone, the other thing we often do is we click over to the little voice recorder, and I can literally be driving down the road, and if I move from, you know, a couple of lyrics on a page to an actual melody, right, I'll just sing it into a voice note. And a lot of times, sometimes I'll have keys and stuff kind of worked out and know an overall feel, but sometimes I'll just send them over to Joshua. I'll be like, hey man, what do you hear with this? And the guy is incredible at writing head licks for songs. Just got a real traditional feel to both his fiddle and his guitar playing. And that's it. Yeah, usually, typically between the two of us is where a song starts to come together from just an idea. So.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned getting back to the lyrics. You talked about, you know, different things will bring a song lyric to mind. You go directly into, some people go directly into their experiences. Others use stories that they've heard from others, other people they know, or others it's out and out fiction, which isn't disingenuous. It's just what, you know, the approach people decide to take. Your lyrics are really relatable. So what I notice right off is you listen and you want to believe all of its stuff is about you. Like it's all autobiographical, which that's a true measure of good songwriting is when it sucks you into that point where, you know, you're involved in and relate to what they're going through, even though it's not, maybe it's foreign to your individual experience, the feelings it's talking about connect.
Yeah, for sure. That's what probably took me the longest to learn is, you know, because I could say technically I started writing songs probably 15, 20 years ago, but I don't really talk about any of those songs because I didn't really have the experience, if you will, to write authentic, genuine things. I wrote a lot of trucks and beer and girls and, you know, which is still fun. Don't get me wrong. There's people that have billions of streams on Spotify writing about basically those three things. But to that end, I'm proud of the evolution that has kind of come together over the last probably 5 to 7 years, where you know you have real genuine experiences. So I'm glad you took that from that, Ron, and you know it comes off as genuine because it absolutely is. So.
Well, yeah, I think something we see a thread running through the veteran singer-songwriter is managing a variety of experiences and how they made a paradigm shift happen from prior service to time in to post-service. The world's shown so much of itself that's so different from American day to day, which is our default before we get in. And a lot of vets have a window into that. And as a songwriter, you have that outlet to kind of work through those shifts and what they meant for your life at different stages.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And especially recently, I found myself writing more about that, you know, the military experience and stuff. And yeah, we just finished a song the other day that I think is going to be super cool. And literally the song is about, I have quite a few friends that are musicians in the military, and now yourselves included. But obviously there's a therapeutic piece to music. I think that's why veterans gravitate towards playing guitar, playing whatever it is they're into. But the really fun part is what happens when I have buddies that then get out of the military. They either retire or separate, and then you see them, 2 years later, 5 years later, right? And they're playing guitar every night. Maybe the hair's a little long in the back, maybe the beard's a little long, maybe the tattoos have grown over new parts of the body that weren't allowed before, and it's really cool. But what happens is I got a couple friends that are just monsters on the stage, like with a guitar in their hand, and you're looking at this, guy or gal with long hair and just a party atmosphere shredding a guitar, and you would never know what that guy or gal was like when they were 19, 20, 21 years old in the Army or the Marine Corps or whatever it happened to be. So we got a song coming just about that very thing. So
that's fantastic. I can't wait for that one. You'll have to let us know so we can put it on the air for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we'll have another record hopefully coming out right about this time next year, but we got a whole lot of selling of 40 that comes out next week first to do, hopefully.
Absolutely. And Casey, before we go further, and then I know Ron's got some other things here, is what is the best way for our listeners to show you support that helps you? We have a very patriotic and veteran supportive community listening right now. So with all the new ways to watch music, I always fear that the artist isn't getting the rewards they should be due for their love and labor. So what helps you the best?
I really appreciate you asking that. So first and foremost, do us a favor, just, at Casey Cameron Music on all the socials. And I always have to say a quick reminder that Casey is just the two letters, Casey Cameron. And so Instagram, Facebook, obviously, TikTok now. I hesitated on that one for as long as I possibly could. But it just became something you couldn't really get around. So you find us there too, and YouTube, of course. But to your point, one of the things that has been a blessing in music is there's actually a little bit of a resurgence of physical copies coming back. And why that's cool is you need the Spotify number. So when you're driving in your car and you're on Bluetooth devices and things like that, streaming is all you can really do. Please go do that, because when we're booking shows and trying to run around and get good gigs, that's really important. But through the website, CaseyCameronMusic.com, you can click over to the store. And for example, start next week when this album comes out, we got an incredible limited edition vinyl for those 10 songs that'll be out. So
wow. Well, count me down for that, because that's my preferred method at the house. I have a
right
I have a 1950s era circa Magnavox stand up. It was my grandparents, and that is my preferred. I love the snaps and the pops and the imperfections. I love the fact that I can buy 2 albums and they will not sound the same in a year. So, sign me up for sure. And I would love to have a copy of those at the house, please.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, just click on over to the website, and those will be starting to ship out next week. So thank you, man.
Yeah, fantastic.
This would probably be a good spot to start talking about 40 and some of the other music that we've had a chance to listen to from you. The album itself seems to be very reflective. It's self-evaluation at the halfway point through life, and that's particularly the title track really speaks to that. And did it seem like a theme was tying together as you were writing and collecting the songs for this one?
It did, actually, yeah. So we thought we had a record in the bag. I was down in Wimberley, Texas last winter, and we did a bunch of work, and we had a bunch of songs, and we were really kind of pleased with that. Fast forward 5 months to May of this past year, and I had that little bit of a significant birthday. And it's always those life events that get you sitting down behind the guitar and starting to write a little bit. And just one day I was like, how can I capture this and embrace being 40 years old? And so the song ended up pouring out, and I was like, oh no, what do I do here? And so I knew this was going to be a good spot or a good one to try to work into the record. So what I did with that one is I actually called up my good buddies Luke Mills and C.R. Pendleton, who have a studio called Ryman West right in South Central Nebraska, and they're incredible production duo. And I was like, well, maybe they'll let me just run over here, just right down the road and do this song. And so I didn't think too much of it until we got in the studio. We put it together. It came out really, really fantastic. I was super happy with it. And so, um, we were able to integrate that song, and not only integrate that song into the record, but it became the title track. And I thought the whole song, or to your point around the whole record, was kind of a reflection, as he said, looking back at that first half of life, and starting to ponder what the second half might be. And really the whole album kind of took shape when we thought it was done, and then it wasn't, and then it went a different direction. And so hopefully to this point, we figured it out. So.
I love what's described on the website about this. The best way to honor the past is to ultimately adjust and move forward from it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's, use a militaryism. It's shift fire, right? There's
There you go.
there's some stuff, that you can reflect upon and be like, man, I probably could have done that better. Between relationships and marriages and family and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you got to give yourself a little bit of credit too, and talk about the good things too. And so we try to do that in the record as well. We got a song on there that was the first record, that's called Hop Along, and wrote that one about my dad and my family, and growing up and stuff. And so for the same reasons, you want to capture the good moments of that first 40 years too, and how we got here, right? And so it's really important.
Hop Along is another one of my favorites. When I listen to your music, I have to tell you, man, it's just nostalgia for me, because I mean, I hear George Strait. I mean, that's the level of. By the way, that's another Army veteran. But I mean,
E5.
Yeah, he was an E5 in the Army. You have this classic. Even though you're young and you got so many decades ahead of you, it's like this. It connects with so many generations. You have the younger listeners picking it up, and then you have folks in the middle, and like myself. It's like it's very comforting music, and it takes me right back. And the song you just referenced is like immediately. I'm thinking about my childhood. I'm thinking about sitting in the back of an S10 pickup truck going up Devil Hill in the Finger Lakes here, while my dad's driving and there's no seatbelts.
Was it the S10 little seat that flipped down from the wall and you sat sideways?
We didn't even have that. Yeah, I was in the back. I was in the bed.
Oh, yeah. We were laughing about that the other day. I forget where we saw one, but man, that took me back. That little rumble seat that you pull down from the wall is like I don't know, like the civilian version of a C-130 or something like that.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. He had my father's passed now, but he had a S10 white Chevy pickup truck. And I'm telling you, Casey, this isn't like to be flattering to you. I'm just telling you, the first two lines of that song, I'm 8 years old again, riding in the back of the truck, because that was the soundtrack to my childhood. He was a big country music fan. Everywhere we went, that was the that's the music we grew up around. So you have this. I'm going to say you should be at the Grand New Opry. You're the next generation of this fantastic genre, and I don't know. I love it. I love everything you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Hop Along speaks to one of those songs I was discussing with you earlier, where you really want that to be a story of the storyteller who's singing it to you. I mean, it's an American family story, and it speaks to not just riding, but riding through life together as a couple, and then ultimately as a collective, as a family. Mm-hmm. And either way, it's hold on tight through the whole thing. Ready or not, hold on tight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it is. It's just taking that ride of life. You know what I mean? And they sure did it. And yeah, my parents have been married since 1965, and so that's a pretty cool thing, and that's a story that deserves to be told, I guess.
Yeah, God bless. That's fantastic. That's beautiful.
Another song I really wanted to talk about, the Man from Tennessee, I should say. Origin Story, is that another one, or did you get?
Yeah, so this song was one. So this one was off the EP that we put out last year, also with Yellow Dog Records in Texas. And Man from Tennessee was just an effort to try to talk about songwriting act. And so one of the cool things that I really love about the music business is it's not always, just about trying to figure your stuff out, but you're trying to always, at least I am always trying to help the next one in line. Matter of fact, we're here at the Songwriter Festival. I had a chance to play with some younger guys on Thursday. They're just all the talent in the world. And it's like, how do you help these guys to not have to navigate all the BS that I did for so long? And so Man from Tennessee was a song that I put together when I was living in Huntington Beach, California for a little while for a job I was doing out there. And that's where I really started playing my own stuff for the first time. And the main barrier to doing that, excuse me, is finding a venue to allow you to do that. And for me, it was a little club called Perks in Huntington Beach, California. And the guy that ran that club, his name was Tim, and he did kind of some jam night stuff, but he did a lot of singer-songwriter stuff. And if you sat down, played a couple, and he said, you're going in the right direction, he'd have you back to do some more showcase stuff. And but he had been a session musician in Nashville, Tennessee for like 40 years or something like that. I think he was originally from Southern California, so when he got done working in Nashville, he retired back out to the beach. And he kind of taught me what it was like to help the next one up, you know what I mean? And really create a conduit for people to explore their musical, journey. And you got to start somewhere, right? And so he did that for me. And the last verse of that song is about that transition to, all right, like somebody did this for me, I'm going to expect you to pass it on down the line, right? And so that's what that song is all about.
Nice, pays it forward. Yep, I loved in one of your particular thoughts about songwriting that comes out in there was "Go like hell down a dead end road, ain't sure why, but it's all you know."
Yeah.
Which I think every musician can relate to. It always feels like this is something you get to do at whatever level you're doing it.
It is, yeah, and that's a really important piece is that you can never predict how long certain things are going to take. How long if I start writing songs today, when will I put out my first studio record? For me, it was 15 years, really, if you think about it, like from actually starting, like putting a guitar in your hand, right? And so, but for some people, it's maybe, it's a year, 2 years, right? Especially with things like TikTok going on and, being able to create huge followings and things like this, like some of these young guys and girls are able to do. But what you got to know is that no matter how long it takes or what happens along the way, you just wake up every morning and you keep writing and you find somebody to listen to it. That's the other beauty is, anybody can write a song and anybody can have it out on Spotify available to 7 billion people tomorrow if you want to, right? And so, capitalize on that. If you want to write songs, write them. I would just say, try to find good people that'll help you sonically get to where you want to be. It took me a long time to learn that and find, good partners in this business to help capture what it was I was trying to say and the way I wanted it to sound on the tape. But if you're a musician and you feel like you're struggling to find those people, just reach out. Somebody will give you that advice, but you got to ask the question. So
yeah, that's another one where the instrumentation again is just really sets up the song. It's a beautiful theme running through it from the fiddle player against the opening progression. Just really sweet song.
Yeah, that was my buddy Wes Barlow that played on that one when we did that record a couple years ago, and he's a monster as well. So another one with just finding the right people, man.
Yeah,
so
absolutely, force multiply. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
let's go.
Well, we know you got to rest up the vocals there. You got another show tonight, of course, but we do like to ask a fun question, and it's going to be different for you because you did join a little bit. You joined the service a little bit later in life, but I still like to do this time travel question. So knowing what you know now and all the adventures you've taken, and you're still taking them, of course. But if you could go back in time, let's say for you, not just before you joined the service, let's go back to where you first thought about it. Let's go back to high school, 2002. If you could go back in time and just spend a minute or less with your younger self, what would be your guidance or warning or advice to young Casey, what would you say to him?
I probably would have said, just do it, man. You know what I mean? Because I would have never guessed that enough things in life happen to where, you know, 18-year-old Casey became 31-year-old Casey and joining the military at that point. I do think about, I was like, man, if I would have joined then, I'd be retired already. You know what I mean? And so it'd be a totally different deal. That being said, I also think everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean? Like maybe I just wasn't supposed to be in Afghanistan or Iraq in the mid 2000s, right? And so, but for those reasons, it's still been a great experience. But yeah, I would still say just do it because I held on probably a little tight to certain things and like big life goals and stuff for quite a long time, for whatever reason. And what I know now is like, sometimes you got to see opportunities for what they are and just grab a hold of them. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try to do that from now on. So.
That's fantastic advice. Absolutely. Well, we're both so impressed and proud of what you're doing.
Very
You're
much.
still serving our country, and we thank you for that because you're the younger generation for us. Ron and I did our time, and now you're serving us, and you're entertaining us and you're inspiring us. So you're hitting all the marks. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it bears repeating. Thank you for your service in both trades.
Yeah, same to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. So, folks, we'll have to do this again sometimes, but please, please, please follow Casey, show him support, get some vinyl records. If you don't know anyone with a vinyl record player, folks, let me tell you something. I will post my address on this website.
Christmas is coming.
You can I have people in the family say, well, gee, what could I get the fellow has everything? Well, no, the only thing I'd ever really want is a gift. Forget the ties. I want a vinyl record. But seriously, folks, follow Casey Cameron, follow all the social media he has, give him that following he needs. He and his group fellow artists will keep going and sharing this great music and help share his story of service and his fantastic art with a much larger audience. And in fact, right now we will go ahead and take a quick break. But before that, you are going to hear one of his newest songs. This is Church. We talked about that during the interview. So we're going to play that. And please, folks, follow KC and let his story be shared loud and clear. KC, God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing. And folks, we'll talk to you right after the break.
Thanks so much, sir.
Thanks, guys.